I want to start with Matthew Fox. You have written this open letter to the Pope calling for rebuilding a church based on compassion, a radical message. Do you think he delivered that message?
I think that he delivered a tremendous message yesterday with his document about justice in the world. I think it goes far beyond church reform. And I like that his perspective is not just about caring for the church, but going beyond and taking on the powerful forces of the economies that we are currently dealing with. That he's willing to really critique the economy with strong language and connecting it to the biblical tradition of justice and the prophetic work on behalf of the poor. As he says, a priority for the poor is the gospel itself. So I commend him for that. Obviously, within the church itself, he's still very weak when it comes to women issues. He said, for example, a few months ago, we need women theology. Well, my goodness, for 45 years has been women theology, and women have been first ignored and then condemned. In fact, the first objection by Ratzinger to my work, the number one is that I'm a feminist theologian. Number two, that I call God mother, and so forth. So there has been a women theology that the Vatican for 34 years has turned its back on. So there's a lot of work to do in the church itself, but I'm glad that he's thinking beyond the church, and he's seeing the church more as the people of God and not as hierarchy. He's quite strong on that, and that was one of the key elements of the reform of the Vatican Council that, in fact, the previous two popes turned their back on, and as I wrote in my book, The Pope's War, really they created a schism because they did turn their back on the preferential option for the poor that the Vatican Council and the Gospels are pretty explicit about.
Father Roy Bourgeois, you spent many years as a priest in Latin America, and this Pope is from Latin America. Your sense of his pronouncements now in terms of what the message will reverberate throughout Latin America, especially his call for greater decentralization of the church.
Yes. First, it's very admirable that Pope Francis is addressing the whole issue of laissez-faire capitalism and the suffering of the majority of the people of the countries of the world. But at the same time, I think it's important for Pope Francis to also address, as he refers to, the outcast that comes about through capitalism, the outcast in the Roman Catholic Church. And I'm referring to women who are not treated as equals, who are denied ordination, and also, of course, the cruel and most offensive of all teachings, that of homosexuality, the suffering that is caused to gays and lesbians, the LGBT community, that must be addressed. Also, very important, the Pope spent many years in Argentina before becoming Pope. He knows about the dirty war. He lived through that, 1976 through 83, where School of the Americas graduates did tremendous untold suffering and death there. We had our annual vigil just this past weekend. Some 4,000 people gathered from all over the country, students, veterans, lots of nuns and others, unionists, peacemakers. We came together to try and close the School of the Americas, now called WINSEC, that really has enforced a U.S. foreign policy in Latin America and the issue that he's addressing, capitalism. This school has been all about protecting U.S. economic interests, exploiting cheap labor of these countries and their natural resources. Exploitation is what it's all about. And it would be very important also for Pope Francis to get more specific and really join us in our efforts and call for the closing of what he knows in Argentina and throughout Latin America as the School of Assassins.